Rowan Atkinson made a name for himself as a sharp-witted comedic mind, but he had another character brewing in his brain that was the polar opposite of the Blackadder ancestors he played on television. While the humour of Blackadder was British in nature, Atkinson wanted to showcase a character who could also translate internationally, and was particularly inspired by Jacques Tati's silent hero Monsieur Hulot. This was none other than Mr. Bean. Atkinson was so intent on proving Mr. Bean as a universal comedic personality that when he showed up at the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Quebec in 1987, he asked to perform for the French-speaking audience. The routine was a hit, and an immortal character was born. Much like Hulot, Mr. Bean found himself fascinated by the strange world around him and the behaviors of other human beings. He was also not very bright, even though he would occasionally find himself thinking fast on his feet and then ultimately making the situation even worse. Atkinson made the smart decision to mostly have Bean talk in mutterings and react to surprises and annoyances with his facial expressions. One of Atkinson's best assets was his use of body language and how he would continually twist his body whenever the situation called for it. Mr. Bean is almost like a comic MacGyver, using whatever material he had around him to his advantage. While he had his sympathetic moments, Mr. Bean was also sometimes a jerk to others. There's an episode where he's at the hospital and constantly tries to find ways to move ahead of other patients. And yet, it's a credit to Atkinson that the bit is more hilarious than mean-spirited. A lot of the Mr. Bean episodes would involve him doing a normal activity, and then he would cause wild events to ensue. Many times, the people around him would be completely oblivious to his actions, which would make the gags even funnier. Something as simple as Bean going to the barber or flying on an airplane would lead to hilarious hijinks. In a few episodes, Bean would be accompanied by his girlfriend Irma, with Bean largely unaware of her affections towards him, so it probably makes sense why that relationship did not last long. One of the most famous episodes of the series was the Christmas special. So many well-known Mr. Bean bits materialized in this episode, including him messing around with a nativity scene and when he gets a turkey stuck on his head. A lot of episodes tend to have a series of skits that are otherwise unrelated to one another, but this one does have an overarching plot point that pays off hilariously in the end. The Mr. Bean series would appear sporadically on the ITV schedule over 5 years, and watching the show one can tell how meticulously Atkinson planned the gags. Like some of the very best British comedy series, he stopped making the show after 15 episodes, rather than let it get stale. Because of the non-verbal nature of Mr. Bean, the character succeeded in becoming a hit outside of the United Kingdom, like Atkinson hoped he would. He became especially popular in countries like the Philippines, Malaysia, China, and Germany. Mr. Bean even inspired local impersonators in those parts of the world, showing just how universal and appealing the character's antics are. The popularity of Mr. Bean then led to a movie being released in 1997, although I consider this more of a mixed bag. There's certainly a number of funny scenes, although quite a few of them are recycled from the television series. The funniest part, where Mr. Bean blows into a vomit bag, was already done on the show, and I find a lot of the movie involves just waiting for the individual skits. To stretch the character out to feature length, there's a whole plot involving the unveiling of a famous painting, and it's not all that interesting. I don't care about the family drama involving Peter McNichol, and we have to sit through multiple scenes of that. However, I think the biggest mistake the movie makes is having Bean speak. Constantly. Rowan Atkinson was very conservative with his use of words on the show, which made him trying to get out of situations even funnier as he uses only his body language and facial expressions. Having him talk in almost every scene takes away that aspect. The scene where Bean desperately tries to hide a water stain on his trousers is funny. Him giving a speech at the end? Not so much. However, the international appeal of Mr. Bean made the movie a sizable worldwide hit. Having brought the character to stage, television, and now the big screen, Rowan Atkinson took the next step and decided to bring Mr. Bean into the realm of animation in 2002. The Mr. Bean cartoon utilized some of the elements of the live-action show, also adding a cranky landlady. The animators were able to impressively replicate Atkinson's physical body language into the character, although he's also a bit more talkative in the cartoon, which is a bit surprising as animation is such a visual medium. It's certainly an amusing show, even if I do think something was lost in translation. Mr. Bean then returned to the big screen in 2007 with Mr. Bean's Holiday, which I do think is an improvement over his previous cinematic escapade. With a title obviously inspired by the classic Jacques Tati comedy Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, the plot is a simple one, but it works as a way to bring about some inspired gags as Bean attempts to make his way to Cannes. Atkinson also returns to the formula of the television show by having Bean say very little, and there are a fair number of laugh-out-loud moments, including Bean trying to understand French food and getting stuck in a shed. While a bit stretched out, and the movie also briefly becomes a commercial for the Cannes Film Festival, Mr. Bean's Holiday is an okay sit. Rowan Atkinson has appeared less as Mr. Bean in the years since, which he admits is due to his age. However, sometimes he puts on the suit again for special appearances. His popularity in Asia led to Atkinson doing some special appearances in Shanghai and Macau, in addition to helping with the United Kingdom's long-running comic relief charity. Probably Mr. Bean's most memorable presence in recent years was showing up at the London Olympics opening ceremony in 2012, where he took part in a musical tribute to Chariots of Fire, leading to a hilarious movie parody. In the end, Atkinson has created a remarkable comedic force, one whose comedy has been able to cross barriers, to bring laughter to people all over the world, and that's an amazing gift. Whether he's just enjoying a day at the park or pretending to be a barber, Mr. Bean somehow is able to find funny situations out of almost anything, and that's why he's a character who will continue to stand the test of time. See you next time.